All right, everybody. We can't talk about the law in politics 24/7 right now because it's so awful. I thought I would start a new little series here on something that has nothing to do with politics or the law, and just to give us all a breather. So I thought I would share some fun stories. Fun to me, I don't know about you, but some interesting times that I've had with my husband. Because I got married very young, and we've been together for a very, very, very long time. And we're almost completely opposite people. And so that really lends itself to a lot of humorous situations. So if you're not interested in a funny story, then just scroll on by. But if you need just a little break from the madness that is the world, then join me as I tell you a little story. So, my husband and I met through mutual friends. I would say one of the things in our life together that has been a bit difficult is that I grew up extremely poor, extremely poor. And I moved out when I was 17 and, put myself through school. I was poor, all right? My husband was not. My husband's family had a maid. They had a BMW. He had a healthy relationship with his parents. He was just living the good life. So we crossed paths. I was from the other side of the tracks. And we crossed paths and, we decided, well, hey, let's give it a go. I think it's because he thought I was a very interesting study. He's a scientist. So here we go. One of the biggest problems that I think happens between people who grow up really poor and people who don't really need to worry about money is the anxiety and the fear of harm because of all of the mundane little choices that you make every day. Right? So when you have no money or you've got $13 to get you through until you get paid again, every single cent has to be designated, or you just give up, spend it all in one go, and then you're just hurting for the rest of the week. So when we first started living together, because of course I had my own apartment because I was 17 and I had things to do. I was in college. He had just graduated his undergraduate. He was getting ready to go into his doctorate program. And we lived together. We knew we were going to get married and, whatever. Who cares if you live together? It's fine. So some of the things that he really struggled with involved how my anxiety would shape our grocery budget. Yeah. So one of the first things to go when you have no money or you just have enough to pay your rent and your electric and your water, one of the first things to go is food. So if you can't scrap together enough money for your rent and also be able to eat dinner, you cut dinner out. That's just one of the things that happens. So when he moved in with me, I was doing all of the grocery shopping and would find all of the things. Now, he doesn't know how to cook, but, I know how to cook. You have to. That's how, you're able to live. So anyway, there was the very first time where I was working, because of course I was working 12, 16-hour days and trying to go to college at the same time. But for him, he's like, la, 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 with his little cushy job that he had in between undergrad and graduate school. And he was just hanging out. So I was like, hey, can you go to the grocery store? Here's a list of what we need. It was like 10 items because that's all I had in my budget for that week. Because even though I personally would miss dinner, I didn't want him to miss dinner. So I sent him to the store and we had our very first disagreement when he got home. He came home and he had spent, I don't know, just a huge amount of money, like $50 This was a huge amount of money if you are really struggling. And got a few items from the store, got everything on the list, but there were a few mistakes that were made. And this was our very first conversation regarding groceries. Now, keep in mind, we've been together a really long time, but you can never forget your first argument over margarine. That was, oh my gosh. So, our morals, our ethics, our ideologies, they're all the same. How we wanted to raise children, great. But the margarine almost did us in. Okay. So he went to the store and he got the most expensive pack of margarine that's available. And he came home. Like for me, I'm like, get margarine. It's 30 cents at the time, right? And he gets one that's like $2.50. And so it's on the table. I'm looking at it. I'm like, what is this? And he's like, well, that's what, my family uses. And I'm like, okay, well, is the money growing on the trees here? Because who's spending $2.50 on margarine, on 4 sticks of margarine? That's crazy talk. So he was truly, truly confused. And we're standing in the kitchen and I'm just going off on this poor fella. He's standing there and he's like, well, I got the margarine. I'm like, you get the blue bonnet. That's what you get. Or the Imperial. I don't care. But if it's more than 50 cents, it's too much for margarine. And he was just like, I'm not sure I really want to marry this girl. Meanwhile, for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, the elitist. Oh my gosh, coming in here with your Fleischmann margarine, haven't had a tough day in your entire life, have you? So we had to stop talking about it for a little while. We went back to our respective corners. We had to think about it. And I had to think, chill the H out, right? I can make that money back with an extra shift, is how I was thinking. Meanwhile, he comes in and he's like, I just don't go grocery shopping. That's not something that I needed to do. And I didn't know. And I'm like, okay, let's go to the store together next time. And you're paying for the margarine. Don't take it out of our joint account. You're paying for it. He's like, okay, I'll pay for it. And I tell you what, it's been 30 years and he has never purchased Fleischmann's margarine again. There have been times when we've been living the high life and I'm like, why don't you go ahead and get the Fleischmann's? And he's like, I just can't spend that much money on margarine. So it's the little things like this where you can recognize the differences in how people live their lives, right? That was the end of the world for me. I was like, that's it. I'm not going to be able to get any cereal for the rest of the week. Meanwhile, for him, he's like, this is just what we do. This is life, and I don't have to worry about it. So I wanted to share my margarine story with everyone just to kind of illustrate a lot of people just don't understand how the other side feels about things because they've just never been in the situation. So there's my funny story time for you today, everyone.